I'm going to go through these pretty simple, pretty standard single target from levels 1 all the way to 90. You guys can skip whatever you want in the video segment. I'll try to post the rotations in the description, but don't hold it against me if I never do. Otherwise, I'm going to be using the same that I've been doing up until now, which is basically placing the rotations up here, big giant buttons. 4, 5, 10, 12 buttons from all swords, so that's 36 total. That should be enough to illustrate a rotation. So it'll be the single target rotation first. Everybody knows how to use Fast Blade, level 1. As soon as you unlock it, go ahead and spam it. Level 2 Fighter Flight. It's pretty straightforward. You pop the button, it increases your damage. I don't really need to explain too much about this stuff. I'm just going to go fast till I really need to explain some of this. So level 1 is just Fast Blade spam. Once you get level 2, you pop Fighter Flight, and then you spam the Fast Blade. I'm not going to go through role skills. I will go through traits as much as I am able to, but the Paladin is a pretty straightforward job. It doesn't really require too much explanation. At level 4, we get the Riot Blade, which goes off of the Fast Blade as a conjunction combo. So you need to press the Fast Blade first in order to enable the Riot Blade to actually do its full potency. Otherwise, you're just going to do an auto attack. And at level 6, we get the Total Eclipse, which enables you to do AoE damage. So this is single target rotation, and then this is AoE. Let's go ahead and remove that. So if you don't have Fighter Flights, just go ahead and ignore the Fighter Flight segment of the rotations, and just go ahead and press the buttons that you see on the subsequent buttons. Level 10, we get a Shield Bash, which is a optional single targeted and AoE sustainable mitigation. This is generally just used on single target. If you've run out of mitigation, so we go to role skills and you've ran out of Rampart, you don't have Rampart, you don't have Low Blow, go ahead and pop the Shield Bash on as many targets as you're able to. That will minimize the incoming damage. The stun from the Shield Bash goes from, I believe it's 5 seconds, down to 3 seconds, and then down to 1 second. So a total of roughly 6 to 7 seconds. The numbers may vary general, but you should be able to use Shield Bash after the stun expires on the target. You should be able to do this 3 times per target. And if it doesn't, just go ahead and watch for that timer to expire to get the most out of it. You might be able to overlap the stuns, but if you do so, then you're basically missing out on its potential. That's a level 10. The Shield Bash can be used both in AoE and single target, but it's most efficient in single targets because you're going to be hitting one target at a time instead of one target over the majority. So if you're using Total Eclipse, you're hitting multiple targets. Then if you're just using Shield Bash on a single target to reduce incoming damage from that target. So there's substantial changes. But let's go ahead and continue on, and that's pretty straightforward. At level 10, we also get Iron Will, which is the standard tank stance. Go ahead and pop this if you're playing a dungeon. It's pretty straightforward. There's really not a whole lot. If it's on, you're playing properly, and if it's off, the rest of your party members will let you know, either by dying or by screaming at you in the chat. Go ahead and level 15, we get Shield Lob. This is generally just another form of initial or for you to start a combat. If you have one target, you Shield Lob at it. If there's more than 2, so generally 3, you're running through dungeons and there's 3 or more targets for you to grab at once, you don't want to be using Shield Lob. You just want to walk into the group and use your Total Eclipse. So if it's 1 to 2, use the Shield Lob and then use it again. Or if you get close enough that you can use a Fast Blade as you keep going, as you keep moving on to the next group. But if there's 3 or more, completely ignore Shield Lob. You don't need to do that because if you do grab Shield Lob, by the time you get to the enemies, the healer's regen might actually pull aggro off of you. So the 2 targets is pretty much the limit. You don't want to be using this on 3 or more. Like I said before, if it's 3 or more, just go ahead and use Total Eclipse. Level 26, we get Rage of Halone. So this is going to be your standard 1, 2, 3 combo for these single targets. It upgrades later on, but for now, this is going to be Rage of Halone, this button right here. It's a standard 1, 2, 3. Press the Fast Blade, enables Riot Blade. Press the Riot Blade, enables your Rage of Halone. Press Rage of Halone, and you've completed the 1, 2, 3 combo. Again, just like the Riot Blade, if you press the Riot Blade or the Rage of Halone without it being in a combo, without it being lit up, you're just going to do an auto attack damage, which is non-existent. And once we've hit level 30, we get Spirits Within. This is going to be one of your first aspects of off-global cooldowns. I don't really consider Fight or Flight an off-global cooldown, mostly because it's programmed. It's one of those buttons that you need to push every so often. 60 seconds, you might not remember it, but the Spirits Within is like on point. You need to know. You need to remember to press this every 30 seconds. But anyways, Spirits Within is pretty straightforward. Pretty much anytime you have used a weapon skill, you're going to be using Spirits Within. Generally, Fight or Flight is also used, but midway, about halfway through a fight, you might be able to use Fight or Flight again. Generally, if you're going through dungeons or just new content, Fight or Flight is used once, and then you completely ignore it because enemies have died and you're on the move to the next event. But Spirits Within, you might use it more than once. But generally use is basically between your weapon skills. So I'm going to make some space. So around here. So this is Spirits Within. It just upgrades based on, you know, your level and your content. So between your weapon skills, you're going to use your Spirits Within. Pretty straightforward, right? So if you've just tossed a shield lob, you can do a Spirits Within right between your shield lob and let's say your Total Eclipse. If you're going to grab multiple targets, which, yeah, counterintuitive what I just said before, but that is the general use for it. At level, I believe, 35, we get Sheltron, and then 38, we get Sentinel. So Sheltron is your... I don't want to put too much emphasis into mitigation because that's not what this video is about. This video is more into the rotation segment. But the Sheltron is your filler. You're going to be using Sheltron pretty much all the time. You never let the counter go above like 80. You want to always just have it, have Sheltron. 4 seconds is the most you'll get early on. Later on, it's going to upgrade to 6 seconds, but for now, 4 seconds is pretty good. Block is 18% damage reduction. If it's up, you're going to block 18% damage, incoming damage from all sources. Okay? Unless it's magic damage, then that might correlate differently to the block, but I'm pretty damn sure that block is 18% damage reduction. So if someone ever asked you, you know, what does block mean? If you press the Sheltron while you're taking damage, you're going to see an 18% damage reduction fly off the screen, and that's going to mean your Sheltron has blocked 18% of that hit. Level 38, we get Sentinel. So Sentinel is considered a heavy cooldown mitigation. Anything that has 30% or more is heavy. Later on we're going to get Hallowed Ground, but for now Sentinel is a one-time use. So if you're popping mitigation and you're using Sentinel, you don't need anything else. That's it. Sentinel is one and done. 30%, so given at much higher levels when you get Reprisal, Reprisal is 10%. With Rampart, that totals amount to 30%. So if you're ever confused on mitigation, 30% is your go-to. 30%, 2 mitigation tools in general sense. Arm's Length is a 20% slow for action, but it's still 20%, so count that as 20% damage reduction. It doesn't occur immediately. You won't notice it, but it is a 20% damage reduction. So combine arm's length with reprisal, you know, arm's length with maybe you're fighting an enemy with an opportune segment, you might combine it with Divine Veil. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It's generally used as 30%. If you're up against a lot of enemies, 30% is pretty good, pretty solid. Once you've run out of enemies, then you might want to start dropping the mitigation potency. So you don't need too heavy. Like just the Rampart might be enough. But just realize that the Rampart also lasts a long time. So, you know, pace yourself. 38 at level 40, we get the Prominence. So the Prominence is the upgrade to the Total Eclipse. So let me remove these. That goes there, and this goes here. Again, just like the Fast Blade into Riot Blade, the Prominence into the Total Eclipse into the Prominence. And that's pretty much straightforward. This is going to be your AoE for your AoE combo for the longest time. So do keep that in mind. Let me go ahead and remove Shield Bash because it's generally not that potent in AoE. But in single target it's fantastic, especially in the lower levels. Let's go ahead, and I believe that's it. 45 we get Cover. Cover has severely been butchered since its previous versions. Right now it just mitigates complete damage from the target that you use it on. Let's say you've run out of healers in a heavy group raid. You want to completely protect them. Go ahead and use Cover on them. You will take their damage, and if you suffer, your group suffers AoE, you will take your damage as well. So you're taking double damage if it's AoE or room wide. But it does protect them. This used to do 20% damage reduction, but now it's just a full-on, you know, you take the target's damage on top of yours. This is generally just used on the main tank. Make sure you pop mitigations along with this. So make sure you pop, you know, your Shotron. Make sure you pop a reprisal during AoE because you will take their damage. So if there's a tank buster coming, you need to make sure you pop the Cover with Hallowed Ground if you have it, with a Sentinel, with a Rampart, because you will take their damage. And if you don't have any cooldowns on you, you might not survive. So that is one way for you to help the main tank, you know, every so often. It only lasts for 12 seconds, which is roughly about 11 seconds or so, due to the animation. And of course, at level 50, we get the Circle of Scorn and the Hallowed Ground. So the Circle of Scorn is used in conjunction with your, if I forget where to use, the Spirits Within. So these two are put together. I think I've mentioned before in other guides that you would do them separately, but no, don't do that. You would somewhat appreciate having to do them separately due to, you know, being in lower levels, but it's better to just put the two together and manage the cooldowns as is, because they both share a 30-second timer between reuse. So pretty much any time one comes up, the other one should be there waiting for you. The general use is the Circle of Scorn goes off first, and then the Spirits Within goes off between. You want to use a weapon skill into 2 off-global cooldowns, or OGCDs is what you call it in this game. I'm sure that some of you have experience already. There's no need for me to explain any further than that. But for those that do not understand, off-global cooldowns is generally 2 per weapon skill. So let's say I've just used the Total Eclipse. I'm going to use the Circle of Scorn into the Spirits Within, and then I'll finish it with the Prominence. That's basically the 2 OGCDs between the weapon skills, 1 and done, or I should say 2 and done, and then we continue with the spam of the AoE. If it's a single target, then we would just generally want to space these out. We would go ahead and toss the circle there, and then we would toss the Spirits Within right between these two. Now, once we get into the level 50, the rotation changes towards an aspect of you want to this is where things get a little complicated. Once you hit level 50, you can do 8-man raids. Go ahead and remove these. If you're not the main tank, you can completely ignore Iron Will. unless you need to swap tanks, then you would use Iron Will along with Shirk. But if you don't need to swap tanks, you can completely ignore Iron Will. If you're the main tank, use it. If you're not, ignore it. Let's talk about these single targets. Level 50 raid, 8-man raid encounters. We won't be using AoE. This is strictly single targets. So for these single targets, we're going to be using a 4 weapon skill opener before the actual opener begins. It might sound a bit confusing, but just follow with me. I'm gonna clear this up a bit. Most jobs in this game take a bit of time to ramp up. Most jobs, the biggest example I can give you is Black Mage, also Samurai. They take a bit of time for them to ramp up, so we want to throw 3 to 4 weapon skills, or in some cases spells. So the DPS, like the Black Mage and the Samurai, they can catch up. They can start throwing their damage up, so they can actually start doing damage. Before they can actually do the damage, they need to throw those, those filler weapon skills or spells. So what this means is we want to be throwing 4 filler weapon skills, so we can actually align ourselves with their moment of shine, moment to shine. We want to throw 4. The first one to throw, if you're playing the main tank, or if you're just playing a tank in general, is going to be the Shield Lob. Shield Lob goes through. This is your first one. Throw the Shield Lob at the boss, or if you're just playing the off tank, just throw it while you're waiting for the cooldown to manifest, or just to come back. As soon as we get into melee, we're going to do a Fast Blade. Okay, remember the 1, 2, 3 combo? That's exactly what we're going to do. And then we're going to do the 1, 2, 3. So this is a Blade of Alone. This just upgrades because I'm a higher level. I'm not going to use it right now because it's spoiler warning. I'm going to pause now. Spoiler warning. If you don't want to see the upgraded version of Rage of Alone, go ahead and just skip forward, because I'm going to explain it to you in image right now, but you don't need to see the actual rotation if you can just follow through with what the buttons are showing. So spoiler warning. So after we do our first 4, we're going to pop our where is the button? Fight or flight. I'm going to make a little space right here, because the space indicates that the fight or flight is a priority cooldown, a priority off global cooldown. There we go. I got it correctly the second time. What that means is this guy goes into a weapon skill. This guy does not go before. Remember, you have a 2.5 second time window between the weapon skills. That recast timer right below the range. See how it's ranged at 3 yalms, 3y. Right below that says recast at 2.5 seconds. This is a general rule for weapon skills. Sometimes it might be lower, sometimes it might be higher based on your job, but the general rule is 2.5. 2.5 between the Shield Lob to Fast Blade, 2.5 between the Fast Blade to the Riot Blade, etc., etc. So there's 2.5, 5, and 7.5, and then 10 seconds. So between these first 4 and the 5th one is about 10 seconds. But I want to throw Fight or Flight into the weapon skill, which is in this case is going to be the Fast Blade. So the Fast Blade goes through. So right here you can throw anything pretty much. If you don't have a cooldown already, right here you can throw Rampart. Just to kind of fill it in. After the Fight or Flight goes through, the Fast Blade comes up again. We want to renew our 3 points combo. After this, we want to throw Circle of Scorn, Spirits Within. Circle of Scorn, Spirits Within. Our 2 off global cooldowns. Again, this is a Spirits Within. It's generally upgraded. Spoiler alert. coming up here soon when I show you guys the actual example. This is Spirits Within, it just got upgraded. And then after that, we're going to do our Riot Blade and then finish it off with a Blade of Alone. And then from there, you just keep spamming 1, 2, 3 combo over and over and over again till the spirits, the Circle of Scorn and Spirits Within comes back up again. And then you do the same thing that you did here. You throw your weapon skill, whether it's Fast Blade, a Riot Blade, or the Rage of Alone, whichever one it is. Throw any one of those, and then you're going to throw your Circle of Scorn, Spirits Within back to back. And eventually, you're going to come up to a 60-second cycle back, and then you're going to be using that Fight or Flight. But remember, before you use the Fight or Flight, make sure it's a priority off global cooldown use. Make sure it's into your next weapon skill, not right after one. So I'm going to use the example now. So spoiler warning, this is a level 50 single target Paladin 8-man raid example that you can also use, in dungeons if you want, but this is generally just used in an 8-man raid to align yourself with the rest of your party members. So we're going to start off with the shield lob. We're going to go into melee, Fast Blade, Riot Blade, and then your finisher. We're going to another combo, and then we're going to press that Fight or Flight, Fast Blade, 1 and 2, and then Riot Blade, and then Royal Authority. Okay, right back again, 1, 2, and 3. Back again, 1, 2, and 3. We're watching these 2 cooldowns right here. Back again, 1, 2, and 3. Watch these cooldowns. Coming back up again. All right, 1, 2, and 3. Now watch this one. Notice how it's aligned with the other two. We're gonna redo our opener all over again, but without the first 4. 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. All right. All right, that's the general use for the level 51. The AoE is similar. Just incorporate the same rules with the AoE version, which in this case should be a lot simpler. It's not a 3-hit combo. It's just a 1-2 action. Let me go ahead and remove this. You don't need to do this in AoE. It's pretty much you get to your enemies and then you start spamming buttons. You can delay it to kind of make it easier for your DPS to do higher damage, higher burst damage, but there's really no necessity for you to do the 4-button delay. Just make sure you maintain mitigation. I'm not going to go through too much mitigation in this video, but just make sure that you maintain that mitigation. So let me go ahead and move these around. And it's just going to be, I believe, Total Eclipse, and then you do these 2, and then you do your Prominence, and that's basically it. And then back to the spam over and over and over again until you're down to about 1 or 2 targets. Pretty safe. 3 targets or more is the basic rule to spam AoE. 3 or more, AoE. 2 or less, single target. So let's move on past the Realm Reborn levels. We start to hit the Heaven Sword, I believe. I think I forgot about Hallowed Ground, but Hallowed Ground is you press the button, you're invulnerable. It's a pretty straightforward button. In dungeons, Hallowed Ground is used depending on what healer you have. If you have a White Mage, you might want to delay Hallowed Ground and just use Sentinel till the healer burns through their entire holy spam. and then go ahead and press the hallowed ground after the Sentinel expires. You know, you could throw a couple Sheltrons in between. Otherwise, they're going to be maxed out. You know. But hallowed ground is pretty straightforward. Swap as the off tank. Swap in with the main tank. Pop hallowed ground. You know, eat a tank buster with it. It's pretty straightforward. At level, let's see, level 52, we get Bulwark. Bulwark acts as the longer extended version of Sheltron. Remember, the block is 18% damage reduction, and this pretty much goes with most auto attacks. I'm not sure if it actually works on tank busters, like a one-hit physical hit. It might work, it might not work. I never really noticed these things. All I know is, you know, maintain 1 to 2 cooldowns on you at all times possible. That's like the best example I can give you guys, the best advice. Bulwark, again, 18% damage reduction from the block. At level 54, we get Goring Blade. Now, the Goring Blade is ignored in the AoE department, unless you're down to, you know, 3 or less. Then you're swapping into single target. But the Goring Blade is generally used as in conjunction with your fight or flight. So remember what we did before, along with the opener, where we did that, and then we did fight or flight here. But then we did 4 before. We did 4 into our opener. Should have said. The Goring Blade goes right after your fight or flight. So the first fast blade is replaced with the Goring Blade at level 54 and onward, and then we're gonna throw our Circle of Scorn with the Spirits Within. So that's basically what it does, and then you throw your fast blade. So the Goring Blade replaces the first fast blade once you've pressed the fight or flight. That's where it goes. That's where it's going to stay for all eternity, or until they change the job again. So that goes there, and then this goes here. So that's the proper location for the butt. And then after that, you know, we renew the Ride Blade, and then we renew the Rage Balloon. So as a standalone example, pretty straightforward. Lob in, press your 1, 2, 3, 2, and then 3. Wait till the weapon skill comes back up, and then you press it into the Goring Blade. 1, 2, and then back to 1, 2, 3. 2 and 3. And then just repeat the 1, 2, 3 combo. Okay. While I wait for the cooldowns to come back up, I don't want to press Hallowed Ground because it has such a long cooldown that if I press it once, I'm afraid I won't ever be able to use it again. But yeah, 420-second cooldown, Jesus. At level 56, we get Divine Veil. They made it better. This used to be like a mediocre kind of thing. I mean, if you timed it correctly with the healer's AoE, it was decent, but now it's fantastic because we can just use it anytime. The go-to for Divine Veil is use it into an AoE or a stack mechanic. Whatever your max health is, it gives the rest of the party, I believe it's 10 or 20% of your max health. 10%. Yeah, and it restores target's HP, cure bonus 400. So pretty much any time you see a room wide coming, pop Divine Veil. That is the standalone use for it. There are other options you can do with it, but it is the most prominent. In dungeons, this guy is used anytime. Anytime you have a second or two between cooldowns or between weapon skills, you want to pop Divine Veil. It gives you a shield to soak a bit of damage. While you're running to the next enemy encounter, while you're in the middle of you know, tanking 20 mobs at a time, don't do that. You can pop Divine Veil. It's pretty straightforward. You use it, put it on cooldown, move on. Level 58, we get Clemency. Clemency, we don't use Clemency. You can use Clemency, but it requires casting, and it requires a global cooldown. This slows down your DPS. You can use Clemency if you're in a pinch and you need to heal someone, but if you're thinking about using Clemency, don't use it. Just keep DPSing. If someone's about to die, odds are the healer is probably going to get to them. If there's only one healer and they are really low, Clemency. Yes, that's probably a situation where Clemency is a good idea. If they're really low on MP, then definitely want to Clemency them. This is specific for clear dungeon runs or clear savage runs. You know, you want to really extend the amount of time that you're in a content. Clemency is perfect, right up the alley, especially for a paladin that's more specifically suited for off tanking. You're gonna be doing God's work when you clutch that Clemency heal on the last healer standing, and possibly them pressing LB3 or some nonsense. I don't know. That's 58. At level 60 we get Royal Authority. Mind you, there's a bunch of like traits that show up, but Paladin is so straightforward that you don't really need to understand the traits. You just follow along with the guide, and I'll take you right through it. So at level 60 we get Royal Authority. Really no change to it. You get it. Amazing. I've been showing you Royal Authority again. Spoiler warning. Whoops. But it replaces Rage of Alone. You do a bit more damage, and it's fancy. You do a nice 240-degree flip in the air. Yeah, Rage of Alone. Got it upgraded. Upgrade. Intervention at 62. Your Sheltron on yourself. You can throw it at someone else for reduced time. So Sheltron, I believe it's 4 seconds, and this is a 4-second timer on someone else instead of on yourself. So if you're playing the off tank, you're using this on the main tank pretty much anytime you get the chance. If there's a tank buster coming, perfect time to use this right into that tank buster. Again, you want to time yourself because it still takes about half a second for the animation on this to go through on the target. So you want to just like, if you see the tank buster coming and you see the action bar filling through right before the tank buster goes through, around 75% of the action bar, that's when you want to toss the intervention at the main tank. Otherwise, let's say that healer is about to die and there's only one of them left, the other healer is dead, why not throw the intervention? But again, the cover is a better idea over the intervention because they have the same cost. So if you want to protect someone really badly and your cover is on cooldown, then intervention is your go-to. Otherwise, use cover on them. But of course, cover has the shorter range, so you need to mind those conditions. At level 64, we get the Holy Spirit, which changes your single target opener, and it also changes the rotation in general for single targets. So Holy Spirits basically replaces Shield Blob. So Holy Spirits in the opener is replaced with that because it does higher damage, and it also burns your MP, which you never really use up until now, except for the Clemency, which you might use every now and then. Once you finish a 1-2-3 combo, you use a Holy Spirit. It's another thing you need to realize at this point. So the Royal Authority that you've been spamming up until now enables a free Holy Spirit. And if that isn't shown, then it should be level 64 under traits. Let's see, Divine Magic Mastery. Halves MP cost for all spells. Let's see, preventing casting interruptions via... grants Divine Might. Allows next Holy Spirit or Holy Circle to be cast immediately within, increased potency duration. Okay. So let's change up the rotation based on that idea. So again, this is the opener. 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then we toss the fighter flights. Let me go ahead and scooch this back so I don't confuse some people. This is fighter flight is supposed to be into the next weapon skill. So there's a bit of a space here. So where does the Holy Spirit go through? Well, we just did a holy royal authority. So the next weapon skill will be swapped with a cast of Holy Spirit. We want to throw the Goring Blade on cooldown though, so the next one will be this guy right here. Let's push this back. Just go ahead and remove that. So that goes there. So remember, anytime you use the Royal Authority, you have a Holy Spirit for free, and it's got higher potency, so you want to use it. Later on, it's gonna also enable a couple other things, but for now, anytime the Royal Authority goes through, you get a free instant use of Holy Spirit, which is the same as a weapon skill in terms of cooldowns. So for that example, we're far away. We don't have a dash yet, but we want to get in there. So we want to hard cast it and then get into melee. 1, 2, and then 3. Wait a bit. And Goring. 1, 2, and then toss that instant. And then we're back to the 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. And we can, run around and toss that instant and then back to 1. It's a spell and it's range, so it lets you, dodge telegraphs and such. So you can dodge a telegraph, and go back in. Alright, that's a good example of that. Let's move on. We are... I believe we're in Stormblood at this point. Yeah, Heavensward ended with Royal Authority. So once in Stormblood, level 68, we get the Requiescat. And that, I believe that's how you pronounce that. Requiescat. Or at least close to pronouncing it. Requiescat enables the same function as the Royal Authority into the instant Holy Spirit, but you get 4 of them back to back. You get 4 Holy Spirits back to back that you can just, you basically turn into a spellcaster once you have the Requiescat popped. This is pretty easy to use and pretty easy to incorporate into the opener. It basically goes right there. Remember the space that's kind of empty? Well, now we have a spot for it. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. So by doing this, that means that our next let me see if I can read the description on it properly so I don't confuse you guys. Deals magic damage with a potency of 300, grants 4 stacks of the Requiescat, which basically lets you use the Holy Spirits 4 times back to back. We do have a free one, so that's going to be the free one goes through, and then we toss the 4 that we get from Requiescat. So what that means is the Fast Blade gets shoved back all the way here, I believe. Let me go ahead and throw the Royal Authority there, and we're going to do 3 of these back to back. Okay, no, actually 4. 4, I forgot the free one. Okay, so if any of you is confused, let me go ahead and put another one right here. So this is the first 4 GCDs to get everybody on the same page. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we toss the Requiescat into the fighter flight, and then our first weapon skill after the fighter flight. So perfect conjunction, priority off global cooldown into your weapon skill. Perfect. And then we toss the next 2 OGCDs between the 2.5 seconds of weapon skill, and then we have our quote-unquote first Holy Spirit off of the Royal Authority. That's why we have 5 of them here. So our first free one goes through, and then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the Requiescat. So I believe, to clarify, this first Holy Spirit is from the Royal Authority. And then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the Requiescat. Once that goes through, we're back to the same rotation that we've been doing up until now. So it's fast, riot into Royal Authority, and then we get a free Holy Spirit over and over and over again till the Circle of Scorn and the Spirits Within comes back up again. And then, you know, once the 60-second timer has completely cycled, and then we do this opener right here all over again, where we pop a weapon skill into Requiescat, Fight or Flight, and then Goring Blade, and then Circle of Scorn and Spirits Within. I'll give you a full example. So this is going to be a 60-second full example. I'm going to go farther away. Go ahead and go in. 1, and 2, and 3. 1 and 2. And then we do the free one. That's 1, 2. You can be far away, but you're missing out on auto attacks. And then that's 4. And then we're back to this. Fast Blade, Riot Blade, Royal Authority, and then our free one again. Again, you can cast it from far away, but you'll miss out on auto attacks. And then once 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to get this again. And back to 1, 2, and 3. Pretty good stuff, right? Want to stay melee at all times, but if you need to dodge telegraphs, you can go away and use Holy Spirit. And we're waiting for these two to come back up again, and then we're going to basically renew the open. One, 2, Goring. 1 that, and then the free one, and then we have 4 more to burn from the Requiescat. 2, 3, and 4. And there's your example for Stormblood, I believe. While we wait for the cooldowns to come back up again, let's see, what else? Passage of Arms. Passage of Arms. It's the same idea as Divine Veil. And it's the opposite. Divine Veil gives you like a second or two between your next mitigation, with that shield soaking up maybe 3 or 4 auto attacks from enemies, depending on how good of a gear you have on your character. The same functions with a Passage of Arms. It gives you a 100% block, similar to Bulwark, where you basically eat up 18% damage. Damage reduction. You have 18% damage reduction. My brain fried for a second there. My voice is like non-existent. I've been talking for too long. Let's just get through this stuff. I'm getting there. I'm almost there. So Passage of Arms, where to use it in dungeons is the opposite of the Fight or Flight. Just imagine Passage of Arms was right here when Requiescat didn't exist. So this is where you use it. You don't have any cooldown or any off global cooldown to put here. So you use Passage of Arms. This is in a dungeon example. You pop a weapon skill, you pop Passage of Arms, and then you do nothing for about a second. And then you are basically spamming the next weapon skill or the next instant spell. That's how you use Passage of Arms in a dungeon. Otherwise, the go-to use for this is room wides. You want to use this, try to get as many of your party members as possible within the cone that will exist behind you. But again, you don't need to stand there forever. Just press the button and stand still for about half a second, and then release the button and continue your DPS. You don't need to stand there for like 5 seconds. You don't need to do that. Just press the button, wait for about half a second, which is surprisingly exactly the amount of time it takes for you your global cooldown to go through the process of, you know, going through the normal weapon skill instant 2.5 seconds. So if you want to press the button and you don't want to worry about, you know, manually waiting that half a second, you can just use a weapon skill or a spell that is instant, and then press the passage of arms, and then immediately spam the next button, like that. Yeah, just spam it. You don't need to wait for it. Just make sure that it's the opposite of a priority off global, like the fight or flight. You wanna make sure it's the opposite of that, not into the weapon skill, but right after a weapon skill. And that's how you use the passage of arms in a dungeon example. It's also used in an 8-man or 24-man in that same manner. If you want to like block or 1 or 2 auto attacks, depending on how fast the enemy's attacking you, but it's got better uses in a you know 8-man setting. Now, this the passage of arms is basically used into stack mechanics, where you have multiple people under you. Get a bit far away from the rest of the party, you know, pop passage of arms, try to aim it so that there's a bunch of people in that cone right behind you. The cone is not far away from you, it's pretty close, but that's basically how you use it. Stack mechanics, room wides, people are getting really jumbled together. Passage of arms, as many as you can, it's gonna feel fantastic. Or you can also just blind a bunch of people while they're getting married. That's another use for it. Okay. And I think that's it for Stormblood. At level 72 we get the Holy Circle, which is the AoE version of your Holy Spirit. After your Prominence, you get a Holy Circle. Just like the Royal Authority giving you a free Holy Spirit, you get a Holy Circle after Prominence. I don't think I need to explain that. It's pretty straightforward. And of course, 74 we get Intervene. I've never really understood why it takes so long for Paladin to get a dash, but yeah, that is what it is. Intervene is literally pushed right here. Let me go ahead and just move all of these buttons back. If you're thinking about it, you pretty much know exactly where I'm going to put this. It's a dash mechanic. It's a gap closer. Want this guy up as soon as possible, and the best place for this is right there. One and done. You have about half a second before, you know, your global cooldown comes back up again, so that's basically where it goes. Let me go ahead and put the other 2 buttons back up, and there you go. Where do you use Intervene once you're midway through a fight? Pretty much somewhere around here. Yeah, somewhere around your free Holy Spirit and the next 4, because your fight or flight is still ticking. Intervene is physical damage. Fight or flight increases physical damage, and if you have 2 charges of this, which you generally should be burning 1 charge of this to, you know, stay at melee range with your enemy. But if you can, hold on to it till you have the fight or flight. They should come up in conjunction with each other, and you should literally just do Intervene back to back. 2 intervenes back to back. There's no need for you to hold on to it unless you need to use mitigation to fill in the gap. But 2 intervenes back to back during the fight or flight buff timer is basically the perfect use for this. Otherwise, just use it after the Holy Spirit in your opener to get into melee, so you don't have to you know, manually walk into your melee range. I don't need to explain this. This is pretty straightforward. level 76 we get Atonement. Okay, so Atonement changes the opener slightly, because this is where things get a little compact. Your rotation only has so much time for you to press the holy circles or the holy spirits, and of course the holy circles if you're in AoE going into single target. You don't have a whole lot of time to do this, so you get 3. After using Royal Authority, you get 3 Atonements, so we're going to push this back by 3. And I'm going to show you exactly where this goes. Goes there. This is the free one. Pop, pop, pop. And then the free one goes through. This is where your 3 Atonements go through. 2 and 3. Now, why would you use them here? Because the Fight or Flight has generally a shorter time than the Requiescat. Requiescat has a 30-second cooldown, a 30-second timer, and then the Fight or Flight has a 20-second timer. You want the physical damage atonements to be done and gone. Okay, gone, no more. So these 3 come off the Royal Authority, which is way back over here. Once the 3 are gone, you're going to basically, continue with the rotation you've been doing up until now. So that's basically it. But again, anytime you use a Royal Authority, you're going to be getting 3 Atonements. So the Holy Spirit can be used here. This is the free one, but you're also going to get 3 Atonements. So make sure you use both the 3 Atonements and the free Holy Spirit. Paladin's becoming kind of like a balance of magic and physical damage, so make sure you balance the 2. And an example of this, let's go ahead and remove this, remove that. I'm going to show you the gap closer here as well. Zoom out a bit. That close in. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we're going to do the 3 Atonements. 2 and 3. Get the free spirits. And then get the 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to go do the 1, 2, 3 combo into 3 Atonements. 1. Again, if you need to, move yourself away, if there's a telegraph, move away, do the spirits. Then we're going to go back and do this. I forgot the Circle of Scorn, but anytime they're back up, all of these should be instant cast. But anytime it was my mistake for not throwing that in there, but you kind of get the idea. The Atonements go first before the Holy Spirit spam, mostly because the Fight or Flight has a 20-second timer on the buff instead of the 30-second. So this has higher priority to be used on the Atonements first than for you to continue on the Requiescat. There's plenty more time for this than there is for this guy. Let's move on. Reset that. Okay, that was Atonement 76 and Confiteor. Confiteor at 80. This is, I'm not going to give you guys an example now because I want to show you guys like the level 90 stuff, but Confiteor pushes this rotation back by 1 button. Literally 1 button. It goes right there. That's where Confiteor goes. It hits multiple targets, whether it's single target or AoE. You're going to hit multiple targets with this. If you're in a dungeon, this is going to go on whatever has the most enemies around it. So you want to make sure that you're hitting something that's like right smack in the center of a large group of things. It's going to hit hard on the target, and then it's going to hit semi-hard on whatever is around it. So it's fantastic for dungeons. Just make sure you kind of get the idea. I'm not gonna do an example because I'm gonna be doing an example for it again at level 90, but that's pretty much where it goes. At level 82, your Sheltron upgrades to Holy Sheltron. This is magnificent. I mean, most of the mitigation upgrades at level 82 for all the tanks is insane, but this one is fantastic. Immediately you get an extra 15% damage reduction. So what that means is the regular Sheltron turns into a mini Sentinel. So 30% damage reduction. The first 4 seconds you can tank anything with this thing, as long as you have good, you have good item level. But the first 4 seconds of your Sheltron, your Holy Sheltron, you don't need anything else. So in dungeons, you press that Holy Sheltron, that's it for 4 seconds. And then after that, you need to pop another mitigation. After that, you just have the 15 from the regular Sheltron. But on top of that, you have, a regen for 250 every 12 seconds. And then you also have, no, I think that's it. Which is still fantastic. It's great. Use it the same way that you've always been using it. It's just that the first 4 seconds, you don't really need any other mitigation. Like, the Holy Sheltron is it for the first 4 seconds. And then, of course, Spirits Within upgrades at level 86. That's what it is here. That's what I've been using up until now. Yeah. Spoiler warning. Nothing really changes. Level 88, the Divine Veil gets a little buff. I think I've already explained this in the earlier levels. Whoops. But yeah, there you go. Divine Veil gets a little slight healing. It's really not noticeable, but yeah, it really doesn't matter all too much. And then at level 90, we get 3 new buttons that we need to press in conjunction with the Confiteor. So let me go ahead and push these back. This goes here. So that goes there, and then this goes here, and then that goes there. So 1, 2, and 3. You're gonna be spamming Confiteor over and over and over again on the same target, because Confiteor turns into these 3. Confiteor turns into Blade of Faith, which does 700 potency on a single target, and then 200 for the rest. The same AoE as Confiteor. It hits quite a number of targets. And it also heals 400 potency on self. The same with Blade of Truth, slightly higher potency, heals yourself again. And then Blade of Valor, slightly higher potency, 900, and then 400 for everybody else. And then, of course, you also get a 400 potency heal. These are all spells, but they are all instant spells, so treat them as weapon skills if you want to. They do magic damage. So I'm basically going to fill the rest of this with Confiteors, because they're all just going to turn. This is the button you need to be pressing, basically. That's pretty much it. Let me go ahead and throw the 3 atonements here, just in case. Again, out of the fight or flight timer, you can do this, you can do that, or you can do this. It doesn't really matter, as long as you throw all 4 of them. I do it this way instead, just in case I need to, get into range, and then we can use the Holy Spirit. So Holy Spirit can be used anywhere in this. If I need to avoid a telegraph or something, if I need to get away from melee, I can always just throw that Holy Spirit. This is the level 90 opener. So this is it for single target. AoE is pretty much straightforward. You swap out the Holy Spirits and the 1, 2, 3 combo with your Total Eclipse and your Prominence into Holy Circle. That's basically the change. But this is your level 90 Paladin opener / rotation. Yeah. This is going to be a single target example for the level 90 opener / rotation. Look at that. You're not going to see too much of the striking dummy, but it's pretty much straightforward. So again, the intervene, the 2 cooldowns, once you get them mid-fight, like 60 seconds in, you're going to be using fight or flight. You're going to redo the entire opener, but you're going to throw both intervenes back to back to maximize the damage that they're able to do because of the fight or flight increasing the physical damage. The video has taken a bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I'll do the AoE version, and then you guys have a go. So go ahead and pop this, take that off, and I'll try to keep tabs on the cooldown. It takes a bit of time to get used to this one. Nope. Press the wrong button there. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, 3 atonements. That's 1, 2, and 3. Our first holy, and then 4. 1, 2, 3. Get rid of the press Confiteor. 4, and then Confiteor, and then Confiteor again, Confiteor once more, and our final Confiteor into 1, 2, back to our riots, and royal, and atonements. 1, 2, 3. Watch the intervene. These guys are going to come back up again, and then the free one. Back to 1, 2, and 3. Let's go ahead and throw the free one there. One and 2. And 3. Let's throw the free ones. 2. Again, you can change it up. Just make sure that everything goes through at the time of which, impact. You want to maintain all the cooldowns relatively close to each other. And 3, we're going to back to this, and then 1, 2. Back to that, and we get 3 atonements, and that. 1, 2, and 3. We throw our free one, and then back to 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3, 4. I forgot the dashes. Go ahead and throw those there. Practice. I've been playing some other jobs, but yeah, a bit of practice is good. Alright. Let me go ahead and do the AoE before I forget. Oh, don't forget about those. There you go. Alright, let me do the AoE. I messed it up a few times there, but you kind of get the idea. A bit of practice and I can do this perfectly and I can jump into content and be amazing, but yeah, it's a bit different when you're trying to explain things to people and you forget. Brain just starts to buffer and completely forget how to do the rotation properly. Let me change these around, but I mean, if that's what you were here for, then you're pretty much done. I'm gonna go ahead and do the AoE now if you want to stick around, but otherwise that's pretty much it for the single target rotation. So we're gonna swap these around. AoE doesn't really require that, but we can go ahead and we're gonna move this. We don't need these anymore. I'll stick those there. Goring Blade's not part of the AoE. It is if you're down to like 3 targets. Then the potency might be. Then the potency is relative, but otherwise you can completely ignore Goring Blade in AOE. You can ignore Atonements, and these turn into Holy Circles. I'm going to shrink this because the AOE is a lot simpler. Configure stays. All these 4 buttons stay. These are gone. All of these are gone. So it's a bunch of this. Where's the other one? Here. 1. Let me do 2. 2 as the opener. So the third one's gonna give me a free one, but I don't want to pop this because it's going to enable a cooldown, so I can't use these, but I can do 2 of them. So we're gonna do 1, 2, and then we can do the 3. I'm kind of talking to myself here, but pretty much any time you have one of these up, you can just go ahead and and press these buttons back to back if you want, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. As long as you get them all down. This is the free one, and after that we do the 4. AOE is a lot simpler, and then after that we just do our configure cooldowns. You can delay this if you want by throwing 4 global cooldowns to let the rest of your party kind of get their bearings, like a black mage or a bard. Samurai get no, not samurai. Samurai is good. Samurai is good in AOE. I think a red mage takes a bit of time to ramp up, but you kind of get the idea. If you have really fast party members, you don't need to do any of this, any of the 4 global cooldown. Just do this. This is pretty good. And then after that, we do we go back to the total eclipse, and it's just the repeat after that. And then we throw this somewhere along here. Let's go ahead and throw our both of our intervenes. So let's push this back by 2. So you're wondering, isn't it better to just use intervene as you're grabbing stuff? Yes and no. So in AoE, as you're grabbing stuff, if it's 3 or less targets, you want to use that shield lob that I told you way back. Let's see if I can find it. So this is a good little combo here. Shield lob into provoke, and then shield lob again. This little combo here gets 3 targets. If you have 4 or more in the higher levels, if you have 4 or more, just walk up to them and do your total eclipse, or your prominence, or your holy circle. Either of the 3, grabs the targets and you move on. But if you have 3 or less targets, you're going to do shield lob, swap to the next target, provoke them, swap to the 3rd target, and shield lob the 3rd target, and then you keep moving. You don't need to throw the intervene unless you need to grab aggro on a 4th or a 5th target if you didn't notice them. You don't want to get too far away from the healer, especially if you're using the sprint, because the healer might not notice it. You're doing a dungeon. They typically are learning on average, so you don't want to get too far ahead of them and want to put them in a bad position. You want a nice and relaxed healer that will focus you. But that's pretty much it. That's the AoE right there. So go ahead and shield lob, and then we provoke another target, and then shield lob the 3rd one. That's pretty much it there. 1, 2. 1 and 2, and then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then we just spam confiteers. 2, and a 3, and 4. And then we spam the 1, 2, and 3 combo for AoE. Till we get the Circle of Scorn back. And a dash, if you want to use it or if you want to hold on to it. And that is your AoE opener for dungeons, I guess. Thanks for watching up until the end. Excuse me. My name is Teegres, and we'll see you guys for next guide.